We know the scale of the challenge and some of the dilemmas which Maria spelt out for us so clearly there, some of the challenges that we need to make. The key question, how to secure the supply of affordable energy and strengthen industrial competitiveness in this profoundly changing, fast-changing landscape that Maria just spoke about. Joining me to discuss this, and please do come up and join me as I introduce you, Ulrich Grillo, President of the Federation of German Industries, better known as BDI, and the CEO of the zinc and sulfur company Grillo Werke AG. Dr. Henryka Bośniarz, who is president of the Polish Confederation Lewitan. Welcome to you. And Lewitan is the biggest organization representing private employers in Poland. Welcome. Fulvio Conti, CEO and general manager of Enel, of course, Italy's largest power company, deputy chairman of Endesa and of Confindustria. A very warm welcome to you. Margaret Sukala, who is a member of the board of executive directors of BASF SE and industrial relations director at BASF. And last but not least, Theo Henra, who is chairman of the board of management of Tata Steel in the Netherlands. A very warm welcome to you all. As with our last debate, no opening remarks, if you wouldn't mind. We're just going to dive straight in. You've heard from the Commissioner and you've heard from Maria, and the Commissioner in the Energy 2020 communication a little while back described energy as one of the greatest tests facing Europe today. We've already heard in previous panels just how important this issue is for competitiveness, which is why we have a specific panel focusing on this issue. If I could ask you whether you believe this is the big test, and if it is, what do you see as the key challenges to enable to square that circle, deliver the affordable, secure supply we meet against the backdrop of these very striking figures, the Commission's own figures, echoing how much more we're paying for our energy than competitors elsewhere. So an opening thought on that, if you would. Ulrich Grillo, if I could start with you, please.
So, Jackie, I'm sure...
Should be working.
Do we have enough energy?
There we are, we do. We have energy in the microphone.
So, great. So, to be honest, it's not a test, it's a reality. We are fighting against high energy prices. The energy problem is a very high problem, and as an entrepreneur, and you mentioned it, zinc business is an energy-intensive business. So it's really not a test, it's a reality. We need energy. You know, as an entrepreneur, you need at least three resources in industry: energy, skilled people, and money. Access to finance. We talked about access to finance, we talked about skilled people. We have to talk about energy, and we heard a lot of today, yesterday, through the last weeks and months, a lot of energy is a problem. If I may say very sharply, we heard a lot of words. We need actions. Yeah, I think more or less everybody understands the problem. We need a secure energy supply. We need affordable energy prices. Of course, we need the climate goals to reach the climate goals, but there's not too much use to talk more. We have to have actions. We have to set the scene. We have, let's move to the investigation about the climate, the energy, renewable energy financing Germany. Yeah, that's of course from the EU side. That's a very tough problem for us, for the energy intensive industry. We can reduce the CO2 emission very fast if we send the European industry outside Europe. So that's the very best, but we shouldn't do that. We heard it before. So not to talk too much, to make fast actions, to set the scene, competitive energy prices for everybody, and that's important. And the last point, if I may say, we should not talk too much about competition within Europe. Our competitor is the global economy. It's not Europe. We should try to understand Europe as one value chain besides the borders of our European countries, yeah, and not fight against each other in Europe. To have a team, I think that was a picture of Michael Hüter. And in the picture, we are one team, we have one value-added chain through whole Europe, and not fight against each other, but the enemy is somewhere else.
Okay, thank you very much. Lots to come back on in the discussion. Enrica Bozniak, if I can ask you in terms of, is this one of the biggest tests facing Europe today, as the Commissioner has described it? And what, for you, the key challenges to make sure that we move, as Ulrich was just saying there, from words to action to meet that challenge?
You know, first, I don't feel very comfortable because usually I'm very critical about the EU bureaucrats. But whatever has been said by Commissioner, I mean, that needs to be supported by the business community, because finally, looks like we are coming to some pragmatic, solutions, okay? And it seems to me that this is what we were lacking in the past. First, that, we set the goals. The ETS in the aviation is a perfect example, how you can introduce something that you know from the beginning it won't work. Because this is, actually the global emission, and how you can make, airlines from the US or China, respecting our rules, right? So first, I mean, we have to just be very, very, pragmatic. Second, we have to learn from others, because it's not that, we are the best in the world. We are quite good, but still, there's a lot that should be done. And for example, when you are looking at the US, what happened in the US energy sector, right? That actually in the last few years, they went down with the, CO2 emission much, further than the European Union, having so complicated, system. So that means that there are, some, other ways. Third issue that we have to find the right balance between the, EU regulation and the national policies. We are different, and actually, it can be an asset. It's not necessary to make all of us, the same. Because, you can stop, I mean, looking from the objective point of view, we can say the energy sector is the one that should be integrated first. Because you can stop people from traveling or finding jobs at the places. You can stop capital. You can't stop pollution, right? Then we have very diversified sources of energy, in every country. We have very diversified climate. So all of that, and being, a global player, it should, actually put us on this path of having really common energy policy.
Okay.
Instead, unfortunately, national, sometimes, just very selfish policies, okay? Then very short-term vision by the local politicians and then by the EU politicians, designed by the, elections.
Okay, let's come back on. You're raising lots and lots of issues. I'd like to come back on all of those. Fulvio Conti, from the perspective of a power company, are we rising to the challenge? Are we meeting that test that the Commissioner talked about? And if not, what more do we need to do? Because it's been made clear today, we're talking here, somebody said earlier, we're not just talking about industrial competitiveness, we're talking about an industry with enormous potential to contribute more to economic growth.
Well, let me start by the end of the story. The end of the story is that finally Europe is getting to terms with the mistakes of the past. And the decision of the Commission to fix one single target is an indication that they finally, after many years of claims and seminars, they recognize that giving more than one single target to Europe was a terrible mistake. The 20-20-20 riddle has created the havoc of having 28 different policies in Europe, having this diversity and a fragmentation in supplying the raw materials, a piecemeal approach, and extra costs that are all paying at the end of the day. Indeed, energy is a cost, but it's also a factor, it's an opportunity. Up until now, the European industry has, to some extent, forced itself to react by increasing the efficiency. And if you measure the intensity of energy in any given product in this side of the world, this will be lower than other places like China and United States of America. It's an indication that we're doing something. So when it comes to the new objectives, I think there is room for us to achieve that. It's ambitious, but we can achieve it. But where we need to move our action into is a sphere of technological-free decision-making process. No one should be constrained to use one single technology. We should use the best technology that are available, as Commissioner indicated earlier on, and someone has already pointed out. It makes no sense to have the sun in Hamburg and have the wind in Sicily, or you should go the other way around. And this is due to the fact that everybody felt in the nation's member states to think about his own paradigm. Let's put it this way. Energy costs are made of three elements. One element is the cost of raw materials you use it to produce electricity, for instance, or gasoline. The second one is the transport and distribution of that system. And the third one is whatever is added on. Now, the first item in these days of market in Europe, especially in the western side of Europe, it's around from 40 to 50 euros per megawatt hour. I'm using electricity as an example. Very, very close to each other. There are not that much difference anymore. The second element, transmission and distribution, is about 10 to 15% of the total cost and is less, much less than any other side of the world. In the continent of the United States and America, it's much more expensive because the technology we're using here in Europe is the most advanced. And the final one, which is the one, straw that breaks the camel up, is the accessories, the subsidies, the incentives, the taxation, the levies, the excise taxes. These are the ones that actually create a problem. Germany is paying more than what it should be paying, 22 billion each year. Okay. Italy is paying 13 billion more than what should they be paying. Spain is paying 8 billion more than what they should be paying because we've been giving juicy subsidies to technologies which were
Okay,
not.
we'll come back on that issue, if we might, in the discussion. But there you, on terms of costs, the European Commission agreeing with you in their energy paper last week because they said the three elements they blamed most for the price increases were network costs, but national taxes and levies. So question mark, how do you solve that problem now, given the numbers? But we'll come back on that in the discussion. I would like to give a chance to our last two panelists just on this basic question of the scale of the challenge and whether we are on course to meet it.